Over here. Yeah. Let me tell it for a minute.
Back at you now.
Yeah. Dollar bill, y'all. Are these the hardest shoes to fill, y'all? Take it in. As far as money's concerned, I'ma break it in. The Golden Glove, too stiff player, break it in. Never heard of surplus.
Welcome everybody to the fourth installment of the Dynasty Trade Calculator Dynasty Wall Street podcast. I am Kevin Cotillo. I have with me again John Bosch and Riley Bymaster. Or Riley, is it by calculator now? I heard.
It is by calculator. I went to the courthouse after I realized that and changed it this morning.
Just to remind everyone, we are all about values here. We are going to tell you, we're going to go through a bunch of players. We're going to talk about their values and what you guys should be getting for them in your Dynasty leagues. We're going to do that by going through the trade calculator values, which you can find on dynastytradecalculator.com. We are going to use 12-team Superflex values unless otherwise specified. And tonight, I think we got an extra player. Normally we do 3 players, but we're going to go quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end today. And we also have a little strategy nugget as we do at the end of most shows. So I'm going to bring on John Bosch. How's it going, John?
I'm doing all right. With the extra player that we're going to have, we're going to fly through these tonight. So buckle in, folks.
It's going to be a quick one. So John, why don't you kick us off with a quarterback?
All right, so we'll get right into it. The quarterback that I'm bringing did not change. We're going to have a free agent theme to this episode tonight, but this quarterback did not change teams. However, free agency definitely had an effect on him, I believe. So we have Patrick Mahomes is the quarterback that I'm bringing to discuss tonight. And I'm going to go with not a 12-team PPR league because that's boring if you're talking about a quarterback. So we're going to bump it up to a Superflex 14-team league. So this is major quarterback premium here. We're talking at 14-team Superflex. Mahomes comes in the calculator on the Dynasty Trade Calculator at 25.4, which is just about equal to the 1.03 in that format. That's 24. So I'm curious to hear what your guys' thoughts are. Maybe overall for a quarterback in this kind of a Superflex, where you would take him in a rookie draft. And then, compared to the 1.03, what are you doing with Mahomes at this point? Now that he's gotten a little bit of a bump, bringing in another solid wide receiver in Sammy Watkins. Riley, let's start with you. What are you going to do with Patrick Mahomes right now?
Yeah, so if we're talking about a 14-team Superflex league, which I actually am in one of those, I would definitely use the 103 to get Mahomes, if that's the case. And I mean, if we're talking right now with the weapons he has, we know he's going to be the guy. I'm taking him as QB1 if I had to put him in this class.
I agree with you there. I am very heavy on quarterback when it comes to Superflex. I have said my 102 in this class right now is Josh Rosen. In any Superflex league that I'm in, 12-team, 14-team, if he goes to the Giants, I want Josh Rosen at 102. What about you, Kevin? How highly do you value quarterbacks? And would you give the 103 in this kind of a setup for Pat Mahomes?
Yeah, in Superflex, I think, especially when you're talking 14 teams, I think you have to value the quarterback above pretty much all else. And for me, getting a young quarterback to build around is absolutely key. So Mahomes coming into his second season where it looks like he's going to be a starter, they're surrounding him with weapons. They've said nothing but positive things, and obviously the guy can sling it. I think at 103, yeah, I'm buying all day long. I'm not even the biggest Mahomes fan personally. I wasn't huge on him coming out last year. I thought they reached and overdrafted for him a little bit, but having said that, I still think that he's going to be worth the 1.03. If for nothing else, then I think you can flip him to get pieces that you might covet a little bit more because his value right now is so high in the Dynasty community because of him taking over the job and them adding Sammy Watkins and that offense looking like it should be even more explosive than it was last year under Alex Smith. So I think 1.03 for sure. I have a question for you, Riley, since you said that he would be a quarterback 1 this year. Is that a product of the fact that we don't know where these guys are yet? Or is it literally you think he'll be better than any of the prospects coming out this year?
No, that's just kind of right now he's got Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Sammy Watkins, and then he's got Kareem Hunt running the ball. It's just a situation thing. I think, the situation combined with his massive arm talent and just, huge playmaking ability. That's why I'd kind of take him at QB1. If we're talking about scouting report, player evaluation wise coming out, Rosen has a higher grade than I had of Mahomes, and Baker Mayfield is just above Mahomes. So he'd probably rank in it at QB3 for me if we're going off that.
All right, good. That's kind of what I thought. I just wanted to clear that up because, for me, when I hear you say he's the quarterback 1, obviously he's already in a great situation. And I think there's not many situations where I think these guys can get drafted into that I think they'll be better than than them, although we have seen Cleveland add a bunch of pieces as well. So, that's a team that could turn it around pretty quickly if one of these guys is solid enough. It looks like Darnold's going to head that way. So I was just curious your thoughts there.
All right, so let's do some comparison shopping here. So he's 25.4. The closest quarterback on the D Dynasty trade calculator is Matt Ryan, 25.1. So you're losing a lot of years there age-wise, but Matt Ryan is also kind of a known commodity at this point. Granted, his last year wasn't as good as the year before, but the true Matt Ryan is probably somewhere in between the last 2 years. Who do you want there? Do you want Mahomes? Are you willing to pay up for that unproven youth, or are you going to take the probably more steady guy at this point, Matt Ryan? What do you want, Riley?
I'm taking Mahomes just because his ceiling is so much higher than Ryan's is right now. I mean, if we're talking about Matt Ryan from 6 and 7 years ago, yeah, then I'll probably take Ryan because he's steadier, but Mahomes has just got so many weapons right now, and he's just so much younger.
What about you, Kevin?
That's a tough one for me. I'm a Matt Ryan fan. I always have been. I know he's not ever going to be, his ceiling. He is a ceiling, right? He's capped a little bit, but I do think that kind of steady production that you're going to get out of him is something that I covet in a quarterback that I have on my roster. He's a great quarterback too, and a super flex in my mind, because he's going to give you a quarterback 1 weeks, but his floor is quarterback 2, not quarterback 3 or quarterback 4. So that's tough for me. But the youth, I think, in the situation that we've talked about, I probably lean towards Mahomes again because he has more value in the community. You think you can work pieces around him or get more for him if you try to move him.
Yeah, I think I'm right there with you guys. I think I'd go Mahomes because I think he's on the ascent and Matt Ryan's on the descent, and I don't like to buy guys going down. I like to buy when they're on the upswing. So I think I'm on Mahomes there with you. My one little caveat is that in a 14-team Superflex, having Matt Ryan as your second quarterback feels really, really good. He doesn't have the upside, but like you said, Kevin, he doesn't have that downside. It gives you the chance to really take a little bit more risk, maybe with your number one quarterback, when you have that other guy that's kind of locked in as something steady. So we'll do some quick hits here for comparison's sake. First, we'll go with the old guys, but the elite of the elite. Tom Brady, 24.1. Drew Brees, 27.5. So now we're going on an even bigger spectrum compared to Matt Ryan. Obviously, these two quarterbacks are much, much better, have a much higher ceiling, I think, but over a much shorter time frame. How much does that youth matter to you, Riley? Are you going to go Mahomes over these two old proven vets?
Yes, I will. If I know my team is built to be a top 2 or top 3 team next year, then it makes it a little more difficult for me, but I think I'm still going to go Mahomes just because I know that what he's surrounded with, and I know he's not going to retire if he wins a Super Bowl next year, which that can be said for both Tom Brady and Drew Brees. Plus, Drew Brees has fallen off in the last couple of years, especially after, I think once Jimmy Graham was traded to the Seahawks, I think that's what really capped his elite status. So yeah, I'll still take Mahomes.
What about you, Kevin? Are you throwing Brady to the curb right here?
I can't do that.
No, I know you can't.
It's just not possible for me to do that. In fact, I kind of want to hurt Riley in some way, shape, or form right now because he's suggesting there might be a retirement coming. Look, I think that this one is 100% about where is your team going. If you are a championship contender, I want Drew Brees and Tom Brady on my roster all day long because they're going to have, I think, better seasons in the next 2 years than Mahomes will. If you are not planning to win a championship in the next 2 years, it's Mahomes all day long. And there's not even a question. So for me, I know that's kind of a cop-out answer. I think I'd probably, hopefully they don't take my Patriots fan card away for saying this, I'd probably lean more towards Mahomes, if I'm a neutral team, just because of the youth and everything. But I think for me, it's all based on what your team's poised to do.
See, this is where I think you can kind of capitalize on that mentality. I kind of think I can compete with Mahomes at almost the exact same level as I can compete. I think he's in that good of a spot right now. So it is definitely not a sure thing to put Mahomes in there, but it feels like very, very little risk. And I really think those guys only have 1 or 2 years. I think Matt Ryan has more than that. So I think I would probably go Mahomes and hope that it pays off because it's a gamble. But if it allows you to compete this year and have his future, that's a gamble that I'm willing to take, I feel. So I've got one more real quick one, and then we're going to have one that I just want to ask a question about. So real quick, guy in the same situation, getting ready to start his second year at quarterback. His team is now surrounding him with weapons. Mitchell Trubisky, 24.9. Plant your flag. Which one do you want, guys? Riley, let's see who you want. Mahomes?
Mahomes, yes. Much better quarterback overall.
Kevin, you?
I'm going to go with Mahomes, but I don't love it. I can't figure out Trubisky. Look, I really can't figure him out. I don't know what he's going to be, and that it drives me nuts because I don't love him, but I I feel like I could be wrong because everyone else seems to. So I don't know.
I think I'm Mahomes as well. I like what the Chiefs can do. The possible play calling downfall that led to the Kareem Hunt shunning for a few weeks does have me a bit concerned, but overall, I will take Mahomes here too. So I've got one more that I'm just curious for the pricing. Joe Flacco. Disgusting Joe Flacco. He's half the price, 12.3. If you have to choose giving up, a good amount to get Patrick Mahomes or saving a lot and getting a guy like Joe Flacco, where are you going to go there? Riley, let's start with you again.
I'm notorious for always having Joe Flacco on my Superflex rosters, but I'm tired of it. I'm tired of the 9-point games. Give me Mahomes. I'll pay for him now.
What about you, Kevin? Are you paying up to have the higher cap potential, or are you going to take that cheap bargain starter guy?
I like the cheap. I hate Flacco so much.
Everybody
hates
hates
bargain.
Flacco. Everybody hates him.
We're going to get to it a little later, but one of the guys that I have as a comparison for my guy is Carlos Hyde, and he's at a 12.7 value. That's a 12-team super flex league, right? So it might be a little different in the 14-team, but I will say if you're going to give me Flacco and Hyde, and I'm a win now kind of team, would I take the two pieces and pick up the extra running back? Maybe. I don't know if I love Hyde going into Cleveland, but still, that's a pretty decent piece to pair with Flacco, make bolster your running back situation a little bit. So I kind of look at it that way and think, like you said, you could win with Mahomes instead of Brady and Breeze. I could probably win with Flacco if he's my second QB, especially if I'm picking up an extra running back.
Yep. I think that's where I'm at. It feels gross. And like Riley, I'm right there with you that Flacco is on a lot of my teams, and it is frustrating. Ideally, he's my quarterback 3 on a super flex team. He feels great as a quarterback 3. I don't know that I want to have to start him as a quarterback 2, but when you can add somebody else based on that, like I would rather turn Mahomes into Flacco plus another startable piece, because then I'm solidifying 2 roster spots. And I really just wanted to ask about him because it's a gross thought to think about, and people just hate Flacco. I was curious where you guys stood. So I actually have the running back that I'm going to bring too. We're going to get even grosser than Joe Flacco, but it's a guy that I kind of wanted to discuss tonight to see how you guys feel and see how people react to the thought of Chris Ivory. So he comes in on the Dynasty trade calculator at 0.7. So I couldn't even get a 2018 pick that had the value that low. I had to go
Can you get
to
a 2019 third?
2019 third is a 1.0. A 2019 fourth is a 0.5. So these are right down Riley's alley of add-on picks.
I knew it was coming.
Yes, of course. So, Riley, when you get that 2019 third or fourth, would you give that for Chris Ivory right now?
No, absolutely not.
What about you, Kevin? We're going to go through Chris Ivory real fast just because I'm curious about him.
2019 third? Give
Yep.
me Chris Ivory? Sure, I'll take Chris Ivory.
So,
Whatever.
Are you serious?
my argument for, I agree with Kevin, and my
Yeah.
argument for Chris Ivory is, have you seen the Bills, not just depth chart at running back, but their roster overall? It's LaShawn McCoy and Charles Clay. Like, Chris Ivory is the second running back. Mike Tolbert's not going to outperform, maybe he will, but he should not be outperforming Chris Ivory. And if you have LaShawn McCoy go down, all of a sudden Chris Ivory's value becomes much more than a third round pick a year from now.
Mark my words, Ivory's getting at least 150 carries this year.
I think you're right. I mean, I think they're going to run LaShawn McCoy into the ground, but they're going to run Ivory too. They don't have any other. AJ McCarron's not good.
He'll get 150 carries this year, and that's valuable in a league. I mean, it is.
And if, God forbid, something happens to McCoy, I mean,
I get it. I know what Riley's thinking. He's thinking, I'm taking that 2019 third and turning it into a 2020 second, and by 2021, I have a first-round pick. I get that. I see where you're going, Riley, but, that's 3 years out. I can't do that.
You just nailed my entire philosophy.
the gamble to Chris Ivory right now is that something does happen, and all of a sudden you can turn a 2019 third into an immediate 2018 second. Like, you can make that jump in 1 year if it hits, instead of having to wait and work 3 years to get that slight improvement. The guys that are going in that same range of value, Dwayne Washington, that's the one from the Lions, I'm pretty sure, 0.7. D'Angelo Henderson, 0.8. Joe Williams, pound the table, Joe Williams, 0.8. Orleans Darkwa, 0.6. And then LeGarrette Blount, 1.1, which I kind of think think I want Blunt over Ivory because of where he just landed. But the other guys on the list, I don't even want them on my roster.
Who was the very first guy you mentioned?
Dwayne Washington.
Okay, I'd rather have Ivory than Washington, but give me the rest. I'd rather have the rest over Chris Ivory.
Orleans Darkwa. You'd rather have
Yes.
Darkwa over Ivory?
Darkwa didn't play that poorly in New York last season. He wasn't bad. I'm pretty sure he was almost at 4 yards per carry. And yeah, he's younger. He's like 26. So sure.
I'll take Ivory on the hope that his value is going to jump faster in 2018 than Orleans Darkwa. Joe Williams and D'Angelo Henderson, they're actually a little bit interesting. Henderson is a guy that I do want to kind of stash, but if it's a thin roster, I don't think he's going to be rosterable. I think he'll end up on waivers. What about you, Kevin? Are you taking Chris Ivory or are you taking anybody on this list?
I don't think you're allowed to like Joe Williams anymore, despite the fact that he legally changed his name to Pound the Table Joe Williams. I don't think you're allowed to like him anymore because you're only allowed to like Jerick McKinnon. It's the only running back that you're allowed to believe in at this point in time, based on the what's going on out in the market there for him. So no, I don't know. I don't think I'll take Henderson's maybe the only guy on that list that I think I'd take a shot on over Ivory, maybe Darkwa, depending on the draft. If they don't draft a running back, maybe he gets another 150 carries again this year, and he's similar to Ivory. But other than that, no.
Alrighty, so we just wrapped up the discussion on the disgusting player of the week. Curious what people out there think. Let us know. Let me know. If you don't want anybody else know, let me know what you think of Chris Ivory, adding him for a third or fourth from 2019. I think it's worth it. It's a gamble, a low price gamble.
Riley, go out and acquire Ivory in the league that we're in, and I'll sell him to you for a 2019 third.
This is a penny stock. It's a penny stock. We like to talk about major investments, but every once in a while we got to invest in those penny stocks, right? So, all right, let's move on. Who's got wide receiver tonight? Kevin, I believe that's you, right?
That is correct. I have a wide receiver, and I'm going to go with a guy that I am sort of confused about. So I appreciate everyone that responded to me giving out suggestions when we posted that out.
Yes, nice job letting Twitter do your work for you, Kevin. That was genius.
It's funny that I'm not even going to pick one of the people that they said because I'm going to go with a guy, Michael Crabtree. I don't know what to do with him right now because obviously he is, he has a new home and he's going to be with the Baltimore Ravens, who were absolutely void of anything resembling a wide receiver prior to this. So, we talked about Joe Flacco, though, being the disgusting option of the group, and I think that that's 100% true. But Crabtree's been very solid the last few years. Obviously, last year was a bit of a down year. Oakland has struggled. But the 2 years prior to that, 922 yards and 1,003 yards with 9 and 8 touchdowns in 15 and 16 respectively. Good, solid years. He's a good receiver. He's a little older now at 31. But I think he still has some talent, so I'm a little curious to see where people value him. His trade calculator value comes in at 9.1. So for that, it's pretty much equivalent to the 1.12 in a 12-team Superflex league, so which comes in at a 9.0 value. So pretty much a wash. John, we'll start with you. For the 1.2, what are you doing with Michael Crabtree?
So for the 112, I'm taking the pick. That is a range right there where seems to be a lot of receivers going in the late first, early second area. I would take the shot on the young receiver. I have tried to acquire Crabtree since he got traded. I've offered early seconds and people aren't selling for that. So that's maybe I should add a fourth on Riley, and maybe that would get the deal done. But
It got to be a third.
I would buy for that early second. If I can get him for the 203, something like that, I feel like he would be a boost to my roster in this upcoming year. And I think he's going to have a decent year. There are not a lot of competitive targets in Baltimore, let's say, other than him. So I think he's going to get a good amount of volume. Volume equals production and fantasy points. And in season, I think I could flip him for a little bit more than an early second. Especially right now, his value is a late first, but in season after a little production, I think I could target a contender and sell him to a contender. And hopefully their team goes off the rails a little bit and it ends up being a 1.09 or 110 or something like that. What about you, Riley?
This is really close because I'm a really big Michael Crabtree fan. I think if I was a piece away and it's going to be a cop-out answer, but if I was a piece away and I needed, a role player or a wide receiver 4, I'd probably go Crabtree. But other than that, I'll probably take the pick in hopes that on draft day, somebody's going to get really wide eyes and want a rookie at, I don't know, insert pick here. They're going to get wide eyes on draft day, and they'll pay more when it comes time.
I'm really curious to hear the comps for Crabtree at, what was it, 9.1?
Yeah, 9.1. And so just from my perspective, we usually talk about price you'd buy and price you'd sell. I think I'd be buying him at a mid-second and selling him at any first. So if I'm getting the 1.12 for him, I'm probably selling, just like you said, Riley, just because with the pick, I think come draft day, I might be able to work something. Even if I do want a veteran wide receiver, I might be able to get a little more value than Crabtree out of that 1.12. So I think that's probably where I'd sell. I'd probably buy at a mid-second. Otherwise, if I can't get a good deal like that on him, it's probably not worth it to me. That's probably where I'm at.
There's also a lot of mocks that have the Ravens taking a wide receiver. So when the NFL draft happens, he's probably going to have a little bit of a knock to his value at that point.
Yeah, I agree. I think you're absolutely right. I think he will probably go down in value a little bit. At that point, you might have to hold him. If you do have him now, or you do acquire him, you might have to hold him through mid-season and then see where he's at, see what the production's doing. For some comps, John, you were interested in these. I'm interested too. It's kind of tough. That 9.1 range is a little out there. So I'm going to give you 3 guys that are right in the similar area. Sterling Shepard comes in at an 8.8. Randall Cobb comes in at an 8.7. And Marvin Jones comes in at 8.3. So all 3 guys a little bit lower, but still in that same general area. Riley, we'll start with you. What are your thoughts on those 3 guys for Michael Crabtree?
Marvin Jones easily, and it's not a question. Love Marvin. I think he's undervalued as it is. The other 2 are closer. I think I'd rather have Shepard just because of age. And I know Shepard's competing for targets, and it's going to be tough for him to see, over 100. I'd rather have Shepard. And then Cobb, I think it's a toss-up, but honestly, I think I'd rather have Crabtree just because I know Crabtree's probably going to be a top 2 guy for the Ravens this year.
Yeah, this is easy for me. Marvin Jones is number 1 on my list out of those 3, head and shoulders above the other ones. I don't understand why people don't value him as highly as I think he should be. It is strange. I agree with you, Riley. He is undervalued for sure. I will continue to take all the Marvin Jones that people want to give me at market price because I like him. I think he's definitely got much higher upside this year, next year, and probably the year after that compared to Crabtree. Sterling Shepard, I love him. He's a guy that I have on a lot of teams. I have a special spot for him, so definitely not taking Crabtree over him. Even with competitive targets make up for a better offense, and I think that eventually it can lead to more red zone opportunities. So that's a good and bad thing when there is a good offense around other people. Randall Cobb, that's a big no. I'll take Crabtree because I know Crabtree's getting targets. I'm not 100% positive where Cobb's going to be getting targets next year, so I will take Crabtree over Cobb pretty easily there.
I think I'm with you guys on that. I definitely Jones and Shepard for me. I take both of those guys. Cobb is obviously a little bit closer. With Jordy gone, I do think that Cobb will be a little bit more important in that offense. He should see some more targets than he saw last year, I think.
Is it for sure that he's staying in Green Bay? Is there not
it's not
like, okay.
I mean, it's not. They could still cut him, I think, but I'd be shocked at this point if they did. You would think that if they were going to, it would have happened already because we're already into free agency. So reducing their salary at this point, I don't know what it does for them as far as bringing in other guys or things like that. So I would have expected them to have done it already.
I kind of thought they would have done it already as well, but
yeah. I think what it came down to for them was it was going to be one or the other. Jordy had the higher number, and I think that they just went with him. That's my thought. So I don't know. I expect Cobb to see a little bit more, and if Aaron Rodgers is healthy and stays on the field all 16 games, there's obviously value there. So that's a little closer for me. It's probably pretty even. I think I'll take Aaron Rodgers guy over Flacco's guy, but whatever. It's a toss up. Just real quickly too, I wanted to get into, we did do a Twitter poll on this one through the @DynastyWallStreet Twitter handle. The popular vote seems to be to sell Michael Crabtree for the 1.12. So everyone seems to be in agreement with us. So, and then a couple of guys that I looked up real quickly too that had similar draft position based on ADP: Martavis Bryant, Larry Fitzgerald, and Equanimeous St. Brown, which I was curious what your thoughts on that were, Riley. Are you taking a rookie like that whose stock seems to be lowering a little bit and then raising a little bit and then lowering a little bit?
I'll tell you what, the 1.12 is right about where ESB's going, right?
Yeah.
I would not feel comfortable taking St. Brown at anywhere in the first round. I think his play style is, it's up and down at best. He's going to be a Tyrell Williams guy where he's going to go off for 2 catches, 85 yards, and a touchdown one week. You're not going to hear from him until the next month, and then he'll do the same thing. That's kind of where I see him in the NFL. I'd much rather have Crabtree very easily. I think we can all agree that probably the 202, 203 would probably be fair value for Crabtree at this point, and I'm not even taking ESB at 202 or 203, so that one's pretty easily for me.
All right, well then that's it for the wide receiver. Why don't we move along to your tight end, Riley? I realize that sounds terrible as I'm saying it, so I apologize for the intro.
All good. Riley by calculator doesn't mind.
You just went third person with a pseudonym.
First time I've ever done that on a pod. But so there's a first time for everything. So here we go. So yeah, continuing with the free agent theme. My guy is 25 years old. He'll be 26 in late September. Coming in with a calculator value of 6.0 is Austin Seferian-Jenkins, newly signed Jacksonville Jaguars tight end. When you look at it compared to draft picks in this year's rookie draft, it is dead in the middle between 203 and 204. They are both 0.5 points off from each other. So 203, 204, take it as you wish. He's only had one season with 50 receptions, and outside of that, he's never had more than 21 in a season. So relatively unproven. He's never played more than 13 games in a year. In fact, it's 13, 9, 2, and 9. So kind of a question mark. He's had some off-the-field issues with Tampa Bay. Kind of wrapped it up a little bit better with the Jets, but now he's in his third team. He's only 25. So for me, I think I am buying at the 204, 205 point, but if I could sell him for anything 201, 202, I'm probably going to take it. I'm going to talk about tight end premium here in a second, but right now we're just going to talk about regular 12-team PPR. What would you guys want to buy and sell ASJ for?
I would buy for a late second. I would sell for anything probably in the first half of the second. I would sell at the 205, 206. He has turned it around, which is awesome. Very, very happy that his story has gone in a positive direction after so much negative in the past. But I don't know that he's going to an offense where he's going to have a lot of opportunity. You know, when the Jags get close to the end zone, they don't feel to me like the Patriots looking for Gronk in the end zone, you know, which is automatic, or the Chiefs looking for Kelsey. They feel like they're going to hand it to Leonard Fournette a lot. So I don't know that he's going to get the red zone target volume that I kind of want out of a tight end. So I'd probably try and cash in at the 2.03. I might trade that in and hope the draft, that's where Goddard is. That's right about his range, I think. And I'd rather have him, you know, because he doesn't have the backstory of negativity that can go along with it. It looks like ASJ has turned his life around. Yes. But dealing with the issues that he was dealing with, people can backslide pretty quickly into that, and the risk is still there. So I don't know about the production. There's a risk that he could go to 0. I will trade it for the pick that has the higher upside. What about you, Kevin?
Yeah, I'm probably moving him for just about any second round pick at this point. Honestly, I'm not a big Seferian-Jenkins fan. Obviously, I think he's got talent. I don't love the offense that he's going to as far as from a tight end perspective. We've never really seen the Jaguars utilize the tight end that much. You know, the red zone, maybe he'll get a few looks. I don't think it'll be consistent enough where you can count on him being your every week tight end. So you're probably streaming at that point. And for me, if I'm going to be doing that, I kind of want one of the younger guys. And as you said, John, you can get those guys around that same area of the 2-3 to the 2-4, even later second. I think there's guys in this draft that you know, maybe Hayden Hurst or something I can take a flyer on later or something like that. So I'd probably sell for any 2.
Yeah, I like that statement. He doesn't feel like he ever has the upside to be a consistent tight end that you can just put in your lineup. But the rookies still have that chance. He feels like a career streamer, basically.
Would tight end premium change anything for you guys? Or I mean, I kind of assume based on what you both said, it's probably not going to change that much.
So my thoughts on tight end premium are, unless you make tight end premium in the way of 2 tight ends, I don't really change anything. I don't change my valuation on tight ends in tight end premium because they all get that bump. So if they're just getting like twice as many points per reception, they're all getting that. And so they still all finish in the same order of finish. I think a lot of people fall into a trap that they see tight end premium and automatically think tight ends are the best part of the league then. But unless you're forced to start two of them, I don't know that the extra, half point per reception or whatever they're getting really makes a difference in the tiering of tight ends. That's my thoughts on tight end premium. What about you, Kevin?
The difference for me comes in the fact that the draft value might change a little bit, because you're going to see those tight end rookies that we talked about going a little higher in the draft. So maybe I need a little more juice to move him if he's on my roster. So that's about the only difference. I'm with you, Bosch, on the scoring as far as people then overinflate tight ends. And I tend to stick to my same strategy as well, especially if you're only starting one. But I do think the rookies will go sooner because, people just will pounce on them a little bit earlier. So maybe that's the only way that it moves me up a little bit as far as what I need.
Okay, yeah, for me, I think I'm buying for, if I can get ASJ for a mid to late second, I think I'll do it. And then of course, if I could get any first or early second, I'm probably going to pull the trigger on that. But am I alone in thinking that Blake Bortles is going to love an athletic check down? I know he's not going to stand in the pocket and read progressions and make Tom Brady or Drew Brees throws. So I'm thinking if I'm Bortles and I, fake the handoff to Fournette, and I know my arm isn't great, and I know, I'm not a great quarterback, but I see ASJ running a drag route under some linebackers, I'm probably going to take that. And he never had it with Mercedes Lewis, who just got released after 12 years. So obviously ASJ's the guy. I think there's potential for targets, and I think he could easily catch 50 to 60 passes, and with his athletic ability, he's going to turn that into a bunch of yards. So for me, I kind of like him. I think he'd be a very sneaky punting target if you don't want anything of Kelsey, Ertz, Gronk in a startup. I think ASJ is a fantastic later round guy for you to target. You can plug in your lineup and he's going to give you solid points.
He caught 50 balls this past year, and that led to 357 yards and 3 touchdowns, which is not terrible for a tight end the way the production goes, but it's not tight end one. And I don't think he's getting much more than the 74 targets he got. And obviously, shaky quarterback situation or whatever. But I think that's kind of what makes me nervous is that, yeah, you're right. There may be some of the, 50 balls might be in the realm. I don't know that that's going to make his production that much better than what we've seen. And the Jaguars have 18 wide receiver twos that they have to feed. I mean, every wide receiver on the team is a wide receiver two. So, they have to do something there with those guys.
Yeah, I think he's going to have weeks where he is a tight end one, but so will any other streamer. I think that's the deal breaker for me is the other guys, the guys that I can get in the draft, they have the chance to get into a tier where they're a starter for me every week. And I really feel comfortable. I'm going to get a tight end one start out of them. ASJ feels like a 50-50 shot. Some weeks he's going to get me a tight end one, some weeks he's not. And for me, I will take the chance on a guy that is going to be more consistent down the line.
Okay, yeah. And just Kevin, one thing I want to add on to yours. He only did play 13 games and he only started 10. So, that'll drop the numbers a little bit, but not much.
Yeah, I was just going off your target reception.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
Not necessarily games, just, targets and receptions is what I was looking at.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so we'll get to the comparisons here. Kind of the first one and the main one I want to cover is Delanie Walker. He's 33 years old, and he comes in at a 6.3 value, so they're nearly identical, regardless of team situation, because I know that's going to change a lot. Would you guys rather have Walker or Safarian Jenkins?
I'll take Delanie. I want the consistency. I don't care if it's for 1 or 2 more years. I will take Delanie easily because he is a tight end that I feel I can plug into my lineup, and I'm fine. I don't feel the need to go get another tight end. I feel just fine putting in Delanie Walker. Not great, but I feel just fine.
So Delanie Walker has been incredibly consistent and has been that guy. You don't have to worry about it, but the end is near, and I don't know when it is. I'm still taking Delanie Walker, but I'm more nervous about it than you are, John.
Yeah, Delanie Walker's definitely on the descent, and like I said before, I don't like to do that, but if the option is a guy that's on the descent but is slowly descending basically versus a guy that I think is just going to be on a straight line path at the same level, I'll I'll take Walker.
I know they drafted Jonnu Smith last year, but I would not be surprised to see them add another tight end in this draft.
Yeah, Tennessee feels like the team that's never going to have like one dominant, just a dominant target hog, even with Corey Davis there. They feel like the kind of team that's going to spread the ball around all the time, which is fine because I think Walker will get his 5 or 6 targets a game probably. Hopefully one's in the red zone and then he catches a touchdown. I think ASJ will go some games with 1 target.
So that was going to be my follow-up question. Does the growth of Corey Davis and the connection between Mariota and Davis not worry you that that's going to take some targets away from Walker?
No, he has to throw to somebody else. And I mean, he's proven that he likes Delaney Walker. They have a nice connection as well.
It makes a little bit of a difference to me because I think Mariota's capped in the amount of times he's going to throw it in a season. So if there is a shift towards, more balls going to Corey Davis, they're coming out of somewhere. So there may be a slight, reduction in targets, but.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. So I've got, I think 4 or 5 quick hits we're going to go over. First, we're going to stick with tight end position. Trey Burton at a 5.4 value or Jordan Reed at an 8.7 value.
We've discussed
Why do we keep talking about him? Why do we keep doing it?
But now I've heard that you guys aren't, super high on ASJ. This will be interesting. So we'll just do tight ends right now. Burton or Reed? Did those change for you?
Reed is still a definite no for me, so I will take ASJ over Reed. You succeeded in making me want ASJ, Riley. Good job. Trey Burton easily for me over ASJ. I'm not sure on their ages, but it feels like they're similar in age. And Trey
Burton's 1 year older.
Okay, so I will take Burton easily. Being signed, I know they were both signed, recently showing that the team is interested, but Burton's going to a team that I think the offense is on a path where there will be a lot more opportunity for him. I don't think ASJ is getting the same amount of opportunity that Trey Burton's getting.
Am I looking at whoever I'm taking in this pick as like my only tight end? So the reason I ask this question, right, is because if ASJ is my tight end too, if I have another tight end on the roster, okay, I might still take Jordan Reed, because at this point, even if he plays 3 games and I can get those 3 games out of him, maybe I can flip him after those 3 games to someone who loves it. We know that when he's on the field, if he's on the field, he is productive.
Kevin, you cannot flip Jordan Reed. You can't sell Jordan Reed for anything right now.
John, you absolutely 100% know that if he starts the season and has 3 games where he puts up, between 80 and 100 yards and a touchdown in all of them, you can sell him.
Maybe
know
for Chris
that.
Ivory.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
You know you can sell him.
I will. I hope it happens, because now I'm really curious to see if there will be a buyer. I think
He'll get moved.
I think
I
everybody
guarantee
is.
it.
I think everybody is spooked that the end is near for Jordan Reed.
I completely agree, and I feel the same way, but that's why I say if he's my tight end too, I might take the upside over a potential concussionless Jordan Reed than Austin Seferian-Jenkins in an offense that I don't love.
Man, this Patriot really has given a lot of former Jets hate right there. He was on the Jets. I can never take him over anybody.
Has nothing to do with that. And who was the other guy, Riley? I'm sorry.
Trey Burton.
Trey Burton. Yeah, I mean, the contract that they gave him, I think, makes it a solid bet that you got to take Burton there.
Okay, so fun fact, Trey Burton and Jordan Reed were both quarterback teammates at Florida. That was just my little nugget.
Backups to Tebow, right?
Yes, backups to Tebow.
Hopefully it's a 6-point passing touchdown league, so I can get a touchdown out of Trey Burton passing, maybe.
Don't bank on that. So we're going to do 2 more, and then I've got a bonus one that should interest you guys a little bit. So Devontae Booker is at a 4.5 and Keelan Cole is at 5.5. So they're both right there. So are you taking either of those guys over ASJ?
I'm going to take both of them over ASJ. Yeah, I just, Keelan Cole's, I don't know what he's going to be. I like it. I liked what he did last season. I think he could turn into, like I said, they have 18 wide receiver too. So he's one of them. He could turn into something, and I'll take him over ASJ. And Devontae Booker, who knows, but it's worth a shot.
Yep, I'm on the same page with you there, Kevin, that I'll take both the position players over the tight end. I think the upside for wide receiver and running back is always higher. They just have a higher upside. They're easier to trade if they do hit. Not everybody wants a tight end, even if he does come out and score 70 to 80 yards a week with a touchdown, because a lot of people go into the season with their tight end position locked and just aren't that interested in making a trade for a tight end. But a running back or a wide receiver, those look a lot better when they can add them in a flex play. So I'm pretty much always going to go running back and wide receiver over a tight end.
Yeah, I'd rather have Booker, but I'd prefer Seferian-Jenkins over Keelan Cole, just because I don't know what Keelan Cole is going to be in that offense.
Probably the same as ASJ.
Yeah, so I mean, oh well, I'll take my guy. But I thought you guys were going to be a little bit higher on Safarian Jenkins, so my bonus was Dante Moncrief, but I'm pretty sure that's... Yeah,
no, come
okay.
on.
I'm sorry.
It's
That
Moncrief.
ends on such a bad note for me. But yeah, I think ASJ is a little undervalued, just based off what you guys said. So that wraps up the tight end position. I'll bring a better one next week.
All right. As we have done so far in every episode, we are going to get back into a little bit of a strategy question. And I'm going to start this one off. We talked about a lot of free agents. So obviously we're going to talk a little bit about a free agency strategy here. And it's more of a question for me to you guys, because I'm curious how you handle this. When you're talking about free agent signings, we talked about Burton getting the money, or we talked about ASJ and the fit with the offense. What do you look at the most? What is the best way for you to extrapolate the past production that you've seen from a player onto their new team? Are you looking at scheme? Are you looking at coaches? Are you looking at the player they're replacing? Do you look at the money and say, hey, they paid this guy, it's got to be, they got to look at him? What do you focus on the most when you're looking at a player going into a new situation? Riley, we'll start with you.
So the main thing I look at is not only the player's positional depth chart, but I look at the entire team's depth chart and how aggressively they pursued, player X. So if the Jaguars signed Dante Moncrief to a 1-year, $10 million deal, they didn't really need another wide receiver, but maybe, I see that they let Robinson walk, and maybe they thought they could get a cheaper A-Rob, so to speak, and they did have some other holes. They need middle linebacker help because Paul Posluszny just retired and left. I think they could use, an extra offensive lineman, definitely an extra running back pass catcher, so to speak, because I don't think TJ Yeldon is doing much for them. So I don't think wide receiver was their number one need, but they still went out and pursued him and got him because I think there were more teams interested in Moncrief, and obviously he chose to go there. So if a team doesn't necessarily need that position because they have other depth chart holes, but they still went and got him, then that's great. And then obviously, if John Brown signing with the Ravens and the Ravens have no wide receivers, then yeah, sure, Brown's going to be pretty interesting.
So for me, I'm going to channel my inner Stanley from The Office here. Money.
Somehow I knew you'd follow the money.
It's all about following the money. I mean, that is the first thing I look at, is what kind of a commitment did the team make to the player? Money talks. If they only gave a guy a 1-year deal with a pretty easy out, I kind of feel like the team is saying to that player, Jeremy Hill, hey, you know what? Earn it. Otherwise, you're out of here. Like, we're not going to waste our time with you. We're not going to waste our money on you. We will give you a shot. If you don't prove it, we don't care, because we're just going to move on quickly. So money talks to me. I mean, that is the primary place I go. I do also like to use it as a way to get the other guys. Riley mentioned the positional depth chart. So Trey Burton gets signed by the Bears. Immediately, that makes me want to go buy Shaheen at a discount. I haven't been able to. I was able to acquire Burton in a couple leagues, but not Shaheen. I don't know why, but that's how I will target that in free agency as well. When a team signs a wide receiver and they have a wide receiver that I kind of like on the depth chart, I will try and get that wide receiver at a, what I think is a discount then.
Yes, Brock Osweiler, Mike Glennon, did those guys hurt you at all?
Okay.
I was just curious.
Quarterback is a whole different story. AJ McCarron got paid a little bit of money. I don't care. I'm not cool for him. So maybe I should put that caveat in there. The quarterback's a whole different scale, because quarterback money is just absurd as it is. But for the other players, I like to see the investment. Thank you for pointing that out. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Brock Osweiler, Glennon, Matt Flynn. Yeah, the money didn't quite work out on those, did it?
Definitely different when you're talking about quarterbacks, but I tend to lean more towards Riley's approach. I think the NFL is obviously a business, and you got to follow the money no matter what. I think if you're not looking at overthecap.com or wherever you want to go to understand what's going on with the league, I think you're not doing all your research, because you have to understand the money and you have to understand when teams can get out from contracts and things like that. But having said that, I do think that teams spend money on players that don't necessarily fit their systems from time to time for whatever reason, or that don't end up playing well in, certain schemes and things like that. So it does happen. So I'm not as worried about the money as I am, do they need that player? Do they fit? Depth chart is a huge deal for me as well. One of the other things that I use free agency for, and this is kind of like my last tip to give people is don't forget about the team that they're leaving and seeing what's going on with them. When you see a guy like Paul Richardson go, get paid, what are you left with in Seattle? Is Tyler Lockett get a little bit of a bump there? And I know John's smiling because he knows I'm contractually obligated to mention Lockett at every podcast.
You mentioned Lockett and Moncrief. We got both of them in tonight.
We got both of them checked. But no, honestly, I mean, does that mean that Lockett has a little bit more value? Because, obviously if they sign Terrell Pryor or bring in someone else, you have to weigh that in as well. But what's left behind by these people that have left these teams, that sign these players? Are they going out and replacing them, or are they sticking with what they have? So that's the other thing I will look at.
I like that strategy too. That's one reason I tried to get Geronimo Allison in some places, because he's free. He's basically free. If I can add Allison and hey, maybe he comes in and actually replaces Jordy Nelson, I'll take that. So I like that strategy too, Kevin.
Real quick, I had one more comment about the money thing for John. Do you remember which running back signed with the Jaguars on like a 5-year, $46 million deal?
Oh, was that Chris Ivory?
I think it was Chris Ivory. Okay, wrap it
yeah,
up.
Full
and
circle.
Then they went and drafted Leonard Fournette. So
yeah,
Still,
Full
saying,
circle.
roll the credits. We finished with Chris Ivory.
yes, we sure did. No, I'm not saying
man.
saying the money is always the end all be all, but that is definitely where I start looking at things. I mean, look at what the Dolphins did. They could have signed Jarvis Landry, let him go, and then went and replaced him with much inferior talent for about the same amount of money. So
Danny Amendola's awesome.
like,
and I'm sure Kevin will agree.
Absolutely. Danny
Exactly.
Playoff Amendola? Yeah, no question
so
about
it does. I'm not saying it always makes sense, but it's definitely where I start because I think it is an important factor.
All right, guys, we have to wrap it up. So that's it for us this time. Thank you again for listening. Thank you again to our friends at the Dynasty Trade Calculator for letting us air this. Definitely go to dynastytradecalculator.com and sign up for the calculator. It is an incredibly useful tool. You will get more than your money's worth, if for nothing else than to be able to use those values to talk to Riley about those third-round picks and what they're actually worth. So you can follow us on Twitter. I am at Wally Central. John is at EmpireFFL. Riley is at DTC_RileyB. I think that's going to be changed to Riley by Calculator soon, but we'll see.
It'll still be the initial B.
And you can follow the pod at Dynasty Wall Street. That's ST for Street. Definitely check us out there. And that's it. We'll be back in a couple weeks.
Eastside. Is he wild? Is he wild? Is he wild? Is he wild?